Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Tiffany. I have a special guest today. Her name's Ariana, also known as Mrs. School Psych.
Hi everyone, so my name is Ariana and I am a second year grad student in a school psychology program in California.
Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Tiffany. I'm excited to answer some of the questions that we got on our IG stories.
Yeah, so we actually posted on our IG stories and asked for any questions related to grad school or school psychology, and we got a ton of questions, and we're actually going to be pulling it out of a hat or like a bucket. It'll be a lot of fun, hopefully. And since we got so many questions, we actually made this a two-part video. So this will be part one, and you can go and check out Mrs. School Psych on YouTube for part two, where you'll get to see more questions. So we're still students, we're still learning, and this is our opinions and, you know, things that we have learned from our experiences.
Yeah. So we're not experts, but we're just kind of going off of what we know and, you know, sharing that with you guys. And everybody's entitled to their own opinion, so some might agree, some might not. But yeah, hopefully some of this information is helpful.
So we'll get started with the first question.
Great.
All right. We have, what have grad schools done since March to help school psychology trainees meet hours for licensing? We started with the heavy one.
Yeah.
So I know for interns, NASP actually changed the hours because of the distance learning and COVID. So they reduced the number of in-person hours that they need, but overall they still need the same number of hours. So I thought it was nice that they accommodated for interns. For practicum students, I think it really depends on the school district, and a lot of programs are kind of waiting for school districts to make their decisions on whether, you know, school will be in person or online, and kind of catering towards what the schools are doing. So I know they're working their hardest to make their decisions and help all the students, but it's kind of up in the air. There's a lot of uncertainty.
So it's similar for us in our program. They provided us with a list of different like websites that we could go to, you know, register for webinars or, you know, different things that we could do. At least that was what it was for the spring. For our fall semester, I'm not sure if they're gonna have new webinars that we can go to, but yeah, I think they're also waiting to see if schools are gonna reopen, if they're not, if school psychs are gonna be taking practicum students or not. So it's really up in the air. But I know that CASP, which is the California Association of School Psychology, they have webinars that are ongoing for students. So I've been doing a lot of that, but I guess it's all up in the air as of now.
I mean, I think programs are trying their best to accommodate students, but it's a difficult time right now, so.
It is, but they're very understanding, so that's nice. So,
yes.
You know, that's helpful. At least it takes away a little bit of the stress as students.
We got a question that asked, what interview questions were you asked for graduate school? I think that's a great question. I get that a lot in my comments and DMs. Yeah. Some questions that were asked a lot were, you know, tell me about yourself and why school psychology. Mm-hmm. Do you have any others that you want to add?
Yeah, so I got those asked as well. Another one was what experience I had working with children. Mm-hmm. And so that one was one that I think, or is one that a lot of people get asked because they want to know what experience you have and do you work with children or do you know how to work with children and all of that, because you are going into a field that you're mainly working with children. So that was a question that I got asked, aside from the ones that you mentioned.
Do you think distance learning will impact subgroups of children? It's a good question. Would you like to start?
Yeah, so I think it depends, like what subgroups are we speaking about. I think it does affect all children, and I think a little bit more to certain subgroups, but I think all children are really going to get impacted by distance learning. Ideally, we want them to be back at school, but obviously it's not safe. And, you know, like we were talking about, Tiffany, there's no real perfect solution for what's going on right now. And so, you know, it's a tough question. You know, it's just all children are going to be impacted. Some negatively, some maybe it's okay because, you know, they have parents that can stay at home and work with them, things like that, but not all children have that. So it's tough.
Right. If we're talking about specific subgroups, I think there are children who are more disadvantaged and maybe they don't have a computer or a laptop at home, or maybe they're a special, in the special education program, they need extra resources and support. I know some school districts, they're opening SPED programs and ESL classes because they know they need that in-person education. And so you're totally right. I think all children will be impacted, and there are subgroups that will be impacted even more so or more negatively. How much reading is there on average? I'm assuming for grad school, and any book suggestions before we start? I don't know about your program, but we had so much reading. I think the first year we had like maybe 100 to 150 pages a week. Meaning like 1 to 2 chapters and like some articles for like each class. Was it like that for you?
Yeah, so again, it's very similar. So we get weekly readings and it's multiple chapters. It's not like, oh, just chapter 1 for this week. There's different chapters that we have to read for just that week. And then aside from that, you have articles that you also have to read. So I would say there's a lot of reading. It's interesting stuff, but if you're someone that's worried about like, am I gonna have so much time to read? Like, you're gonna have to make sure you have time to read those chapters and get that reading in, because there is a lot of reading.
Yeah. And then this person also asked if we had any book suggestions before we start. I think I mentioned this in one of my videos that it's not necessary to read up on, like the textbooks and technical, school psychology literature before you start. But I think if you want to kind of dip your feet or like get to know about the field, one book that I do recommend is Dr. Charles Barrett's book. It's called It's Always About the Children, and he talks about his own experience, how he came to know school psychology and his journey as a school psychologist. And I just think it's, it's a quick, easy read, and it's a really good intro to the field.
And I've heard you mention that in previous videos, and I actually want to read that book too. As far as any books that I recommend, I don't have any specific ones. Like you said, there's textbooks that I think are good, but I don't think it's needed for someone to read before starting grad school, because you're going to be doing all of that when you start, and all the programs are different. So obviously if I recommend a text, it doesn't mean that your program is going to be using the same text. So yeah, but there is a lot of different books that people can access. I find a lot of those on IG. People post constantly on their stories or on their posts like, hey, I recommend this book, or they have book clubs. So that's something that people can look at too.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess this is a good plug for our Instagram handles. I know you post a lot of good resources for school psychs and people in the field. And, that also includes book recommendations. So we could leave our handles in the screen somewhere.
I know, I try to be consistent. I think it's easier to post daily on there versus YouTube. And so I'm on Instagram, I try to post at least once a day, sometimes more, but so follow us on Instagram.
What's the hardest and easiest thing about grad school? That is a very, it's a good question. It's very broad. Do you have anything that comes to mind?
So for me, at least, it's learning how to balance everything that I have going on, because I do have a family, I work full-time, and I go to school full-time. So it is a lot of things going on at once. And so it's kind of just time managing and knowing how to, set a time for family, set time aside for school, and then, obviously go to work. And, I would say that's the hardest thing for me. And then the easiest thing would be, I guess, paying attention in school, because this is the field that really interests me. So the information is just something that I like to focus on, and it's not hard to be like going to class and focusing. So, some of you guys are not sure, about this field, then it is going to be more challenging. But if you like the field and you like all of this, ongoing learning, then I think that's the easiest part of the program. But
wow.
Yeah.
Wait, so I actually wrote down some of my answers and you said the exact same thing that I did.
Yeah.
The hardest thing I said was time management, especially if you're working, if you have a family, if you have other things going on.
Yeah.
I had 2 jobs and I was planning a wedding my first year, and then I had grad school. It's full time for most programs, and so it was so much to handle in the beginning. But people make it work. It's stressful, but
it's doable.
You get it done. Mm-hmm.
And then you just have to like sacrifice, I think, certain things. Like I can't just be going out all the time or, hanging out with friends. Like I have to have my priorities straight. And then I think that's kind of what gets you through, like prioritizing and managing your time and all of that.
Yes, and then also for the easiest thing, I said the same thing. I said learning because it's something that we're interested in.
Yeah.
And something that we're invested in.
Yeah, I think that is the easiest part, honestly, because I don't know if there's anything else that's easy about the program.
Okay, next question. How do you think the field will be changed with distance learning / COVID?
That's a good question.
It is a good question.
Yeah, I like to look at things in the positive side. So I think that it's going to give us the opportunity as school psychologists to show, you know, what we're capable of doing. You know, some people think all we do is just assess kids, but I think that this is going to allow us to show, you know, we know how to counsel kids, we know how to do other things aside from testing. And so who knows, maybe it'll be good for us in a sense. You know, I think it's going to be challenging, but I think it'll be good.
I actually couldn't think of anything negative for this one because we really don't know what's going on yet. One positive thing I did think of was increased social emotional learning that's going to happen, or, you know, people are really preparing for that. Counseling and just teaching like explicit social and emotional skills. I think that's going to be, it's going to be really good. Hopefully, you know, more school psychologists will practice that.
Yeah, because I know that it depends on where you are, what district and all of that, but not every school psychologist gets to do SEL with kids. It's just more like assessments and things like that. So that's why I say I think it's going to allow school psychologists to, you know, shine and show what, you know, else we know. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. People are asking some tough questions. How hard is the GRE?
That is a good question. And I don't know if you want to go first, but because for my program, they didn't require the GRE. And so I know a lot of programs do. I took only the writing part. Yeah. So we didn't have to take the whole GRE. We had to have our CBEST, which is the California Basic Skills Test. And so, yeah, I didn't have to take it. But I took the writing one. And I wouldn't say it was super hard, but I like writing, so I don't know. I mean, I didn't think it was super hard.
Well, it's great that you like writing because we have to do a lot of writing in the
field. So it's funny because this might be weird, but I was going back and forth between school counseling and school psychology, and like the deciding factor, I guess, was that we get to do a lot of report writing. So I was like, oh yeah, I love doing writing, so yeah, I don't know. People think that's weird.
Wow.
But obviously, it's not going to be like super fun 24/7, but it's not something that I dislike.
No, that's amazing. Like, there's so many people that hate it because of all the writing. Yeah. So you won't mind.
Yeah, no, that's not. I don't find that to be a problem.
Not all schools require the GRE.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could be a factor that you consider when you look for grad schools.
Yeah.
So for mine, they did require it, but I actually took mine in 2015, right after graduating college. When I was going through my rounds of PhD programs that I was applying to. Yeah. And I don't know if it's changed in the past 5 years, but when I took it, it was pretty similar to the SAT, but I would say it had less technical questions and more conceptual questions for English and math. So for math, you know, they're not trying to see how much math you know. They're just making sure you have all the skills that you need. And for English, not testing you on all the, you know, the hardest vocabulary words. They're making sure you have like reading comprehension skills, critical thinking skills.
Yeah, and so the CBEST, I'm assuming, obviously it's just in California, but it's similar to, I think, well, I didn't take the GRE, so I shouldn't say it's similar, but I would say maybe a less intense version of the GRE, but yeah. But yeah, I didn't have to take the GRE, which I'm glad, because some people get so stressed out about it.
I hope people don't stress out about it as much because it shouldn't determine whether you get into a school or not. It's just more comprehensive, the whole application process. What advice can you give to someone going into grad school in the fall? And this was asked by a lot of people.
I guess advice for people that are going to start the program in the fall, I would say, one, I don't know if it's the same for you, but we use APA for our writing. And in one of my videos, I talk about this. Like, I would recommend either refreshing up on your APA skills or learning how to write APA, because it's going to be what you use all the time to write your papers. And then also kind of get familiar with some of the acronyms in the field, because I know, at least for me, when my professors were talking, they naturally just use acronyms, and sometimes I would be like, you know, what does that mean? And, you know, so I would say that just don't learn them all. I'm not saying memorize them before you start, but at least familiarize yourself with them so that when you hear them, you're kind of like, oh, I've heard that before.
So I think those are really good points, and I never really think about them, but you're totally right. Like, we always use it and talk about it.
Yeah.
And my first semester of grad school, I was confused all the time because our professors just like, I think they've been like in the field for so long, they just assume like it's common knowledge, but none of us know what they're talking about.
Yeah, they just naturally say it without even thinking, and they assume that we know.
I also wanted to add that you should always stay on top of your reading, and that'll help you be more engaged during lecture and kind of understand what they're talking about, and also it'll help you ask questions in class and take part in the discussion. Practicing self-care, because it will be stressful sometimes, and whatever self-care means to you, you know, including exercising, eating right, getting sleep. Next question. Who should I ask to write my recommendation letters if I didn't make many connections with professors? I think this is a great question, and it puts you in a tough spot.
I mean, I would think at least one professor you made some type of connection that they would be willing to write a letter for you. But if you know you have no one, I would say ideally if you work somewhere where you're working with children, then having somebody from there write a letter. You know, people that can speak on your skills, your work ethic, and your character. But you never know. You can always reach out to your professors and see if they might be willing to write you a letter. Even if you feel like you didn't have a connection, they might feel like, hey, I know this person well enough, and I'll still write you a letter. So it doesn't hurt to reach out to your professors, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. And a lot of times they ask for your like CV or resume just so they can like include some like, you know, extra information about you.
So for mine, I had one of my professors. So we needed 3. So I had one from my professor. And then I had the principal that I worked for in my previous job. And then a teacher that I worked alongside. Because I provided social skills training and things like that for kids. So I asked people that I worked with, because they kind of see what you're doing and they can speak on different things. So yeah, I would say employers would be a good option.
All right, 2 questions left. Okay. I've heard that many school psychs often have to take work home with them. Is this true?
Well, I'm not a school psych yet, but I have heard that before as well. And I think that it probably has to do maybe the first 2 years, I would say, because you're still trying to figure out what's working, what's not working, how to manage your time, things like that. So you probably will, like the first 1 or 2 years, but I think as you move forward, you are able to manage your time a lot better. And, you know, I've heard some people that don't take any work home. So I think it just depends on you as a person.
Yeah, totally depends. I know a ton of people who do take work home, and they either don't mind it or they hate it, but there are some people who set boundaries and they don't take any work home. Or maybe you work in like a high school and you don't have that many reports to write. It really depends on like where you work, how you set your own limits and boundaries. Okay, this person said, best planner, how to manage school and work, study tips. And study tips, that was asked many times, so people really want study tips. So do you have any suggestions for planners?
So the planner that I currently have is the Erin Condren planner, and this is the first time that I buy one of those. Would I recommend it? I don't think I'll buy it again, because they are pricey, and I wanted to see what it was like all about. The paper quality is great, and like the binding and all of that, like it's good quality, but there's nothing too special about it to pay like 70 or 80 bucks for a planner. So yeah, as of now, I don't have any recommendations, but I had some people on my Instagram that shared some of their like preferred planners, and it was like Paper Plum and the Happy Planner, and there was like some other ones that I can't remember, but I don't know. I think it really depends on you, like what style you're looking for, what you need it for, because I like the hourly ones.
I also love the hourly planner, just because if we have like classes and like meetings, you want to like kind of pencil in like which hour and make sure like things don't overlap. I really loved using something called the Passion Planner, and it has the hourly setup, and then they also give you like questions for like the week to like kind of reflect on your goals, or you know,
yeah, and I
some like
actually
cheesy stuff that kind of helps.
I had that one when they first like came up with it, when they ran that thing, I don't know what it's called, when they were like raising money to like put it out. I got it, so I don't know how much it's changed since then. But yeah, that one was a good planner too.
Yeah, I like that one. And then right now I actually switched over to a bullet journal.
Oh, okay.
It's a little time consuming, but I love that I can like kind of sit there and be creative and put my thoughts out, design it how I want. But yeah, those are my 2 suggestions. There's so many out there.
Yeah, and it depends what you're looking for. I've had friends that get them at like the dollar store, and it works perfectly fine for them, and they just decorate it and make it look cute. I'm not that creative, so I'd rather buy one that comes with stuff. But the Erin Condren one, you can make it cute, but it's super expensive. Like their sticker pack and all of these things that I'm like, no, I can't spend that
I
much
don't have money for that.
I'm a grad student, yeah. I don't have money for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like even as a school psych, I don't know if I would want to invest that much money into a planner.
Yeah.
You can also use like digital calendars. I think Google makes great calendars. A lot of people use that, or even like the one on like the iPhone.
Yeah, so I'm looking into switching over to digital, but I haven't found one that I want to try. So, but I was thinking about doing that. I just don't know how well it'll work, you know, because I like paper and pencil, but but I also want to save trees, so I don't know.
How to manage school and work?
That's a good question. I think that relates to having a planner. I schedule everything out. I like to have like everything scheduled ahead of time. So, you know, I use my hourly planner and I'll put like I have to do this. I'll block out like if I have to do observation hours, if I have to do, I don't know, meeting, I put when I have class, all of these things. But I think it's just managing your time with a planner. I mean, I don't know what else. That's what I do. I don't know how else you can do it, you know. Some people use sticky notes, but I can't just have sticky notes everywhere. So I use my phone calendar too, but my planner serves like for school, work, and my family stuff. So like doctor's appointments, things like that, they're all in the same planner.
I think you do need a planner or some kind of way to keep things organized, and I think it's also important to make sure it's feasible to do both.
Yeah.
Make sure, you know, you have the time to study and put that time into school, but also if you have to work, you know, having that time to work.
Yeah.
And if it's really not feasible, if you're stretching yourself out too thin, like you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
And so
it is a lot of work, and there are so many hours that we need to get done as grad students, and you have to keep in mind like eventually you're gonna have to work part-time or quit your job in general, because, you know, well, at least if you work for a school. If you work, you know, for example, if you work at a Starbucks, you can work in the evenings or whatever, but I work at a school, and so my hours have to get done during school hours, and then my observations have to get during school hours. Obviously that's not, you know, that's not gonna be possible. So I have to eventually go part-time. So I can do that, but not everybody can do that. So it's just things that you have to think about.
Yeah, I mean, you'll have to prioritize and sacrifice, and it'll be over, you know, in a few years.
Yeah.
Yes, it'll be so worth it.
Yeah.
And study tips. You have any great study tips?
So I guess what works for me is having like a designated space where I do all of my schoolwork, and I'm like OCD about being clean and organized, so I like to have everything clean, somewhere where I can just do my work and not be like I don't like having like a TV near me or anything like that, because then I get distracted. So doing my work on the couch or on my bed is not something that I do, because I know that it's not going to work. So I would say having a desk and just making it comfortable and cute, and just knowing that that's where you go to do your work, I think that helps. And then also having snacks when you're studying, because I just feel like it makes you focus and work better. Yeah, so a desk and snacks.
You can't think when you're hungry.
Yeah, you can't. So, you know, you don't want to be mad while you're studying. Just have something there.
Bonus question, what's your favorite snack? If you had to choose one favorite snack, what is it?
I love fruit. So if I can have any, like, I don't know if you know, but like in like Mexican culture, it's called pico de gallo, and it's just like all kinds of fruit with salt and lemon and like tajin. And so if I could have that every day, I would eat that every day. But just any fruit I like to have.
Wow, so healthy.
Yeah, I'm not
here
I don't
with my
have
Oreos.
Yeah, I don't have a sweet tooth, so I think that's why. Like, I don't really like chocolate, so it's not, I don't know, maybe sour candy.
What is my study tip? It is, when you're reading, I take like a ton of notes. I highlight everything because if I don't, I get so bored and like kind of zone out. So if I take notes and highlight, then I can kind of focus a little bit more.
Yeah.
And also, if you can make some friends in the cohort, like studying together with people, it also helps, especially for my stats class. When we had homework due like every week, it was nice to kind of like cross-check answers, or if you had any questions, you can go and, you know, ask your friends.
Yeah.
If not, you always have your professors.
I know, or exchange numbers, like you said, with people that are in your class, because you will have questions and it's easier to ask them versus texting your professor like at midnight. But
yeah. Okay, well, that's a wrap on the first set of questions. If you want to continue watching, make sure to check out the part 2 video on Mrs. School Psych, Ariana's channel. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.
bye.
Bye.